back. Oh my gosh, I was supposed to be here last week. I had to take a mental break. Headache, but it's your girl, T Marie. I am back for another break free with T Marie. I am your entrepreneur, your edupreneur, your visionary, your follow through Miss Make It Happen, right? I'm back for another episode. Today, I'm going to talk to you all about the difference between a boss and a leader. We hear them words interchange so much, but they need and have every right to be fully defined. So today I'm going to do just that. I'm going to do a deep dive. I didn't print off my notes today, so you're going to see me kind of go into my phone a little bit. But again, you know me, I like to make sure that I stay in line, online, and make sure I give you everything all the time. Period. I know me. I'll be flowing with it. But anyway, yeah, I'm back, y'all. Check it out real quick before I go into it. I took some of my own advice. Like again, this whole podcast is me more so like a virtual diary, right? Like I'm telling you all things that you can do, should do, but I'm also telling you things that I'm doing as I'm telling you all to do it. So it can be practical, it can be relevant, and it can be tangible. So I am off from a little weekend getaway. I went to Charleston, somewhere I've been wanting to go for 10 years since I've moved to North Carolina. I finally took that little quick sabbatical, was surprised. My best friend from that I met here in North Carolina, he moved to Cali, and so he surprised me. It just so happened to be coming in, so it couldn't have been no better, right? He rented a car already. I had the hotel already. We just I got double beds. He's my bestie. But we went to Charleston and we did all the things. We love to eat. He and I were foodies, so we ate a lot. Had the best grits. Fell in love with pimento cheese all over again. Best pimento. But Charleston was very, very much needed. I was able to explore absolutely nothingness. Like I was chasing after, gully people. But the point is, I don't want to ramble and belabor the point. I spoke about this in one of my other podcasts earlier on, about just taking some time. And so after I had given you all that advice, I went home, opened up my calendar one day and just said, this is the weekend that I'm going to take a trip. And it just so happened to be that I left on the anniversary, the 1 year anniversary of my son's accident. And I'm going to tell you something. I miss my family, but I did not feel guilt behind taking time for myself, because the alternative, when we think about all the things that we do and supposedly for other people, for the good of, right, what about the good of ourselves? Because the alternative is I could have been home looking at him, he looking at me, and what is that, like, what would that have really done? So I didn't plan it that way. I just so happened to look up and say, wow, it's a whole year. And yeah, I'm away because mama need time too. So I did that. I ate, I explored, I ate some more, and came on back home, was ready for work. Boom. But then got right back to work. I have to be a leader. Ain't that nothing? Got to work today. Well, let's talk about what my work is first. I am entrepreneur. I said that I am the founder of Kingdom Kids Empowerment Academy, a K-12 private school for us, by us, based on the tenets of HEAL, or the core value system HEAL, which stands for holistic health, mind, body, and spirit. E stands for economics and entrepreneurship. A stands for academic success, and L stands for leadership. Everything we do in this program is focused on the tenets of HEAL. Someone was just calling me. And then I am also the CEO and visionary behind Impact Child Behavioral Services, Inc., which is a K through 5 private school that focuses on AB Ed, which is a framework that I've created. It is AB, which is applied behavioral and education put together, so parents don't have to choose between ABA therapy and education. They don't have to choose between going to EC and have the sensory needs not being met, and they don't have to choose through ABA and not have all their academic needs being met. So I put them together, created a framework, trademarking that baby. We're going to take that puppy on the road. So anyway, I am the visionary behind that. And then my new baby that'll be launching in September is Soul Stable LLC, which is a equine therapy, a hippotherapy, basically a horse therapy company, right? I found a brother, I found a man, literally went off my vision, called someone 2 days later. I told y'all the story. The man said, "You don't say." I called him just to see, can I come look at your horses? Told him what I was about to do. He said, let's do something together. I need to do something to make more revenue. I said, well, I need horses. He had acres, tons of acres. And as a result, we met once, and he and I will be meeting again tomorrow to kind of finalize some things. And then I think we'll have one more subsequent meeting where we just kind of put some John Hancock, some signatures together. But yeah, I have Soul Stables. I'm just a girl from Buffalo with a horse stable, or at least partnering with someone with a stable and then offering the therapy. But you get the point. The bottom line is, this is where I'm going to go and dive into the difference between a boss versus a leader, because a boss would have to own everything and have her hand. We're going to talk about it, though. I'm not going to go all the way into it. Get my point. I have 3 entities going. They've all spin off of each other. Be very careful of launching multiple entities, especially when they're in the beginning stages. The only reason why I'm comfortable doing this is because I've learned to be more of a leader than a boss. I've learned to rely on my team, and I've also learned to be, more importantly, guided by God. So when he says move, I move, and that's why things fall into place like Tetris. All right, so let me get into it. T. Marie, let's break it down, right? A boss controls. I talked about that, right? A leader cultivates, right? A boss works in silence. A leader builds legacy. Now, there's a lot to be said with that, but as long as you're protecting your things and your entity, you want to make sure you're doing this so that it can be carried on. So when I speak about the trademark, like, I'm doing that and I could keep it to myself, right? But a lot of times you hear people say, you want to franchise that, or you want to take it on the road, or you want to, make it replicated. And so essentially with me trademarking it, that's just exactly what I'm doing. I'm creating a legacy and an opportunity for other people to have this. So I'm not safeguarding this thing. It's trademarked. It'll be, properly named to me, but able to be replicated and spun across regions, right? That's how you create legacy. A boss does it all alone. A leader creates a team who can do more. I've talked about that significantly since I've started doing this podcast, and it could be further from the truth. Now, I will digress a little bit. It's not always going to be perfect. You're not always going to hit it out the park with your teammates. You're going to have to start from scratch and go all the way over. But the point is to not get discouraged and just say, bump it, I'm going to do it myself. That's a trauma response. And I'll talk about that in just a second. All right. So a leader creates team and does more. Let me tell you something else a leader does. Sidebar. Today, I came to work. 2 things happened. Now I'm fresh off my little hiatus. I'm thinking I'm good. Got a little sun, all the things. I'm ready to rock and roll. Get to work. Before I even get there, I get a call off. One of my strong team members called off. What I was gonna do? What I do? I geared myself up. I had every intention on doing office work today, following up on a lot of emails. A lot of things I kind of left by the wayside. We're getting ready for opening of school. So just had every intention on doing that, because Friday I was in a classroom as well as an assistant. So this time I got a lead class. And it was for my impact school, so that was just a little more challenging. So, but I got my mind wrapped around it. Fine. So I got settled into thinking, okay, mindset shift. You're going to be in a classroom today. Boom, let's work. And then breakfast arrives, and they tell me there's a baby flood in our breakfast room. I go look at it. I said, well, close the door. Like at the end of the day, I'll figure it out. And so by the end of the day, literally, I said to myself, Self, I have a shop vac. So I say that to say a leader sometimes, and not a boss, because bosses think it's cute. It's pretty. And I started to actually record myself doing this so people could see just kind of what I mean by a leader will also have to do the things that have to get done, right? When there's no one else there to do it. And so you have to lead by example. You have to be able to say, there's not, it's not that I won't do it, right? If there's someone else who can do it, I will let them do it. But in that moment, there was no one else to do it, and safety was at hand, right? And so, as to preserve my floors, to make sure that children don't go in there and slip, I went in there with a shop vac and I started shop vacuuming. And I watched my makeup get all sweaty and I pulled my hair back and I just made it happen. And then I went back into my classroom. The leader in me did not get disgruntled and ticked off, like, why am I doing that? Because that's what a boss would do. Okay. So, boss is also an attitude, and leadership says, what is it that we need to do? Because in moments where things need to get done, they just need to get done. If there is no opportunity for delegation, then, and this is my opinion now, there's no opportunity for delegation. It just has to get done, right? All right. So let's go into it. I like to take tea bags, have you drop them into your entrepreneurial tea so you can go and take a sip. So here's one. Here's a tea bag. If you build something no one else can carry, it's not a vision, it's a cage. Ooh. Because how you going to take it somewhere, right? Like, you got to hear it's the vision, but you can't give it to anyone else. So you're locked into that, and you'll always be the one responsible for making that thing go forth. It'll be stagnant. Totally not what you want. I wouldn't think, right? Like I've seen old school mom and pops, right, kind of get stagnant because of this reason. And then I guess they anticipate maybe my children are going to take it over, and they're just so used to. And I got like that. I got like that with my daughter Zoe, working hand in hand with me until one day she said, Mom, this is not my passion. I might be good at it and I'm here 10 toes with you, but this is not what I want to do. And so, an old school mentality might have thought, well, dang, because in my mind, I'm building this for my kids. But that doesn't mean that she has to do the day to day. She can take it over in another capacity. But, going back to what I was just saying, you don't want it to be stuck into a cage. So let's go into it. Woo, let's sit with that. It says the reason we sometimes operate as bosses isn't always pride, it's trauma. This is what I want to dig into. Some of us had to do it alone. We couldn't trust anyone else. And this is the one. We survived by staying in control. But hear me, control might have protected you, but it will never promote you. And so I'm not going to belabor that because I already kind of just talked about it. But at the end of the day, if you go in and you are controlling and controlling and controlling, one, no one's going to want to work with you. Let's just start with that. Because if you can do it, then do it, right? That's the attitude your team will eventually take and dismiss you. Right. And then the other thing is it'll live and die with you. And that's the honest to goodness truth. A lot of mom and pops have died because there was no one else who knew the secret sauce because you felt like you could do it. Right. And so you didn't have an opportunity to get your systems in place to be able to make it replicated. Right. And so now it's stuck. You don't want it to die with you. That's old school. It's a little antiquated. Okay. Being in control 24/7 is in business. It's fear in a business card. I love that. You're just wrapping it up, but you putting a bow on it that I got a business. You have a business of one. And that's not fancy. That's just you just doing something and making some money with it. But the art of business is to be able to have systems in place that can allow that thing to carry out. Hence McDonald's. That's how franchises come about, right? They got a system down pat and they replicated it. Maybe you don't want to grow that big. I get that. You don't have to, but you also don't want to die that small. Hello. You'll die small on the strength that, and you'll die tired because you haven't put a system in place to give yourself a day off. Let's talk about keeping it small. But you still want a day off. You still want to go on vacation. I had to leave Friday. Let's talk about it. Friday, I would have liked to have left a little bit earlier. But the leader in me said I needed to stay out of fairness because we didn't have enough people to make sure that the children safely got dismissed. However, at 4 on the dot, usually we have a few more kids lingering until about 4:15, 4:30, and then you wrapping up kind of the day, right? So you really don't get out of there until about 4:20. I didn't stay till 4:20. I was out at 4 on the dot. I told my team, I communicated with them, listen, 4 on the dot. So all those little incidental things, I had to trust them. No, I don't have a big organization, but I am starting something that has to have a system. And so everyone knows what has to happen to close down the school for that day. ACs need to be turned off. Waters need to be turned off. All lights need to be turned off. Garbage needs to be taken out. All of those things need to happen. And I wasn't going to do it. I was going to hit the road. And so that small system that was in place enabled me to do just that, hit the road. Okay. I lost it. I'm going back to it. Give me a second. All right. So, yeah, I said it's a business card. All right, let's get to the next thing. Now, let me be 100% transparent. I'm still shifting, guys. I was the queen of do it this way. I don't even think I realized it, right? I think I just did things a certain way. And here's my big one. If you were taking too long, I'll just jump in there and do it. That was kind of my big thing. More so because I don't want to ask. I don't like asking people to do things for me. And I realized very quickly in this last year that that's probably a trauma response. I just don't want to be let down, right? I want it done a certain way. One of the little nuggets that I love that I've learned is as long as it gets done right, or gets done well. Right is relative, right? And what I mean by that is how it gets done, as long as it's not illegal or hurting someone or threatening or anything like that. How someone gets it done does not have to be my way necessarily, right? I'm going to say 9 out of 10 times it can be done the other person's way. Once you show them and they come up with a different way, great. As long as the end result, because the bottom line is we're outcome based. We want the outcome. We want to make sure that what we set forth gets done effectively and efficiently, right? So who am I to micromanage how it gets done, right? Timely, cost savings, expending little resources that's efficient. That's what I require. And so I've learned to take my hands off it. If you do it this way, and then here's the other thing I learned is when I was a cheer coach and I own my cheer company. Sometimes you got to let people fail forward. As long as someone is not going to get hurt, I try not to intervene. That's how you want to do it. Go ahead and try it. If it doesn't have a detriment to the children, because that's my primary concern, and it doesn't set the building on fire, right? Go ahead and try it. If it works, boom, you figured out a new way to do something. Kudos to you. If it doesn't, don't do that again. And I'm not going to give you a second chance to fail, but we will have be a teachable lesson, right? To say, hey, what could you have done differently? This is why I do things this way. That's more easy to kind of swallow as a leader, to then go in and coach someone than to be a dictator and say, don't do it like this, because then you build a resentment. Why is she always telling me how to do something? Dang. Then they don't feel empowered, which is the big deal, right? They don't feel empowered to take chances and have an entrepreneurial mind. Remember, entrepreneur does not mean always a business owner. The true definition of entrepreneur is risk taker. And so you want people on staff who are going to be willing to say, you know what, the boss ain't here or our leader is not here. Somebody got to make a decision. I choose to make a decision. And you know what? If it goes well, great. If it doesn't, I'm baby leader. I'm making this choice on behalf of Miss Tanisha, our leader. I'll take it on the chest if it doesn't work. Those are the people, believe it or not, that we as true leaders want on our team. Those risk takers, the ones who's gonna have a thoughtful think. They're gonna have a thoughtful process. They're gonna think it through and say, you know what, I'm gonna give it a shot. I want those type of people. Think outside the box. And I've been learning not to be threatened by that. Because at one point I used to be threatened, like, oh yeah, I thought about that. You know what? Now I'm to the point where I could have thought of 1,000 things, but baby, it's only one of me. I couldn't execute it. So if you think that's your idea, have at it. Go do it. Great. I'm excited because I don't want to do it anymore. I don't want to plan all the things. I don't want to have this and have that. If you got the idea and you want to do it, be entrepreneurial. Right now, I got a young lady, a woman that's working for me. I love her excitement. And I found myself when she would say things, I would say, oh, yeah, I thought of that. And I recognized, or at least the Holy Spirit told me, your trauma is showing up. It's peeking its little head out. You feel like can't nobody do it as good as you. You keep popping that thing out there. And I said to myself, oh, that's ugly. I don't like that trait in myself. And so if you're not an introspective person, one thing my pastor talked about a couple weeks ago is when you pray, God will tell you about yourself if you really are open and really having a conversation. And baby, I've been listening to him talk junk about me, but I'm receptive to it because I want to be better, right? To be a better leader, mother, wife, all the things. So I have to listen. So I heard that. Look at that head rearing out. You. Every time she say something. So now when she calls and says, "I got an idea," I'm like, you know what? Do it, and I'm happy for her because now she's excited to do it, and she keep me on my toes. She texted me today like, what's up with this, and that, and I'm like, it's not that I neglected it. It's that, the timing, when you're the leader, though, you see things from higher up. So you're like, okay, I understand you want to move forward on this, but there's processes. There's a procedure. I got to talk to my board, make sure the board is on board, all those things. But still the enthusiasm is like this. She's here. I'm here. We coming like this. And I'm like, okay, rubber meets the road. Let's go. That's who you want on your team. So yeah, you don't want to stifle them and put the lid on them by letting your trauma come in because you want to feel like you're doing something, because there go that boss mentality. You want that leadership that says, come on, let me cultivate that spirit of entrepreneurship, that spirit of party plan or event plan or whatever, because trust and believe me, you have people on your team who are multifaceted. They don't just do what you hired them for, right? They may be your teacher, but in this case, she's a wonderful planner. So she looks like she's a researcher. She's very, very she loves to do all of those things for other people. So she's probably going to be the one to make sure our bulletin boards are well done. I don't have time for that anymore, but I'd love to see it in the school. This is where the cultivation of a leader comes in, making sure you're giving them all the support they need, the resources, right, to continue to flourish in that, and stepping back. If you don't like it, let them know. I don't like that board. But at the end of the day, let them go. Let them go to an extent, right? Let's talk about it. So I'm still shifting. I kind of talked about Kingdom Kids. One of the things I did, I laid the vision, I laid the Hill vision out, and now I'm bringing teachers in. Actually, I'm hiring for a teacher. So if you know of an elementary school teacher who would be interested in teaching in a non-traditional setting, please have them hit me up, www.kkempoweracademy.com. Looking, school starts September 5th. But like I said, I got this school. Listen, guys, last 2 years, I think I had 5 students. And you would have thought the way I moved, I had a whole squad, right? This year, I think I'm going to have 16. That's to date, 16 students. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. That's 3 classes of, you know, 7, 6, depending on the size. And that's just from the Kingdom Kids side. So where I was teaching all those classes up and down and last year getting tired from doing it, this year I need to hire staff. I need teachers in there, right? And so I can't do it all alone. And I recognize that. So looking for healthy staff, people who want to think outside the box, entrepreneurial, who will atone to the heal core value system. We got a garden, we just planted, we doing dope things. And then we have ICBS, Impact Child Behavioral Services Inc. I wrote the framework, AB Ed, tenets of ABA therapy, education, put together, married them babies, and now we have a framework to where children and parents don't have to choose between either or. I gave a parent a tour today, mom and dad. They were thoroughly impressed. The father said nothing, stood there whole time. I wasn't intimidated. I kept running my mouth. That's what I do. But the point is, when we were done, I never saw his eyes because he had his sunglasses on, so I didn't even get to see. He never made a facial expression. I couldn't read him. Usually I could make everybody chuckle. When we were done, he shook my hand so firm and said, "Thank you for being so thorough, period." Because when you know your stuff, you know your stuff. Again, that's my role, to be the leader, not to sell my school, but to pour out the vision so people can see it and make it plain. Because it's here. Now it's got to be here. That was my job. And so I was able to move some children around, even though we had a person call off. I was able to kind of, disperse some students into some other classrooms and allow them, give them 30 minutes of strong vision of the impact. And so they liked it. I'm anticipating them calling me and saying, let's move forward. That's how you do it. And so I say all that to say, like, today I worked in my class today. I was like, ooh, child, I made the vision. I can do the work. Don't get me twisted. I have a BT. I have a behavioral tech, and I've worked with children on the spectrum. I've worked with IDD population, so I know how to do the work. But let's be real. I'm almost 50, and I'm a visionary right now. So you cannot be both. It will drown the vision if you're doing the work. You just can't do it. So when I'm in that space, I have to take one hat off, put the other hat on. I can't keep the working hat on, but so long. So that's why I love my staff and will do what I have to do for them, because I want them there cultivating the vision. So I've hired an EC educator with strong background, a behavior tech, a registered behavior tech with strong background. I have a LCSW, a licensed clinical social worker, over top, making sure that she's doing great case notes, things of that nature. All the pieces, paying the right people, giving them what they need, right, to be successful. That's what a good leader is. Then I got this other thing, Soul Stable. I talked about it. I'll meet with them tomorrow. Second meeting, third meeting will be it. But listen here, y'all. I don't know a thing about horses. I just learned about them being broken, which I thought when I first hear, oh my God, why would you want to break a horse? It has to be broken or they will buck you. Child, I said, what? I need a broke horse? I thought, swear to goodness, first thing I thought when I heard broke her horse was Brokeback Mountain. And I was like, idiot. I cracked myself up. So no, you need a broken horse. So I mean, that's probably about all I know, right? I know you got to brush them. Here's what I know about horses: Ralph Lauren Polo. Because baby, I digress. I definitely want to look like a Polo moniker, right? I love that look. Always have. Maybe it's the New York in me, but I digress. But trust and believe me, I'm gonna have me some chaps. Anyway, I don't know anything about it, but what I do know is there is a need. There's a need for our community. There is a wait list, right? Because I never try to say I'm the only one. Just like with Impact, I am not the first one who decided to put sensory with education. I'm just the one who put them together on paper and who's going to trademark it and take that show on the road, right? Again, That's what leaders do. They don't boss it up and say, I'm holding this to myself. No one will know about it. That's foolishness, because what's the true goal? Is it for other people to benefit from it, or just for you to make money and for you to have your little program benefit? That's insane. But there's people who think that way. So touche, I guess. But to that point, yeah, I know nothing about horses other than polo, other than, I guess brushing them. But what I do know is it's the next phase of my life. I want to see children on the spectrum able to enjoy something. And if there's a wait list, then that tells me there is a need and a demand, right? And then you guys know I have a son with a traumatic brain injury. Once I found out that it benefits him as well, like absolutely. And so, in order for that to work, right, I'm not a therapist. I don't do horses other than I'm going to learn how to, because I want to learn how to ride. But that's leisure. Like from the work aspect of it, I have to lean on other people to make that go into fruition. And so, again, that's where leadership 101 comes in, making sure that I'm putting the right people in place, cultivating them, making them feel empowered, making sure, to my pastor's point, who's kind of mentoring me on the leadership side, making sure I'm still there so they know that I'm supporting them, right? And then once my systems are in place, making sure that I'm available and popping in, right? To make sure that thing has checkpoints and things are going still in the right direction. Not how I said it to be done, but in the direction that I require. It's a difference, because it's not a do as I say, but it's a do as effectively as it can be done, right? It's a difference. All right. Teabag number 3. I don't remember doing number 2, but leadership isn't knowing everything. Remember, I know nothing about horses. It's knowing when to trust someone else to carry out what you've conceived. So if you have a child and you don't know math, like, right, you're not going to sit there and try to teach the kid math. You're going to send them on to a specialist, i.e. a teacher, right? Which is what I'm going to do, because I'm not great at math. So I know I have kids coming in who have high levels of intelligence. I'm bringing in people who have that and can cultivate those children in that space. It's leadership, y'all. All right, I'm right on the money. Look at you. Go on, girl. Segment 4, why we boss up. Here go the one. This is it. It's trauma. It's trauma behind the title. I remember my aunt used to say, I'm so sick of everybody talking about I'm a boss. Crazy thing, fun fact, I had a automobile. I had a whip. I had a car that I bought a few years ago. The dumbest thing I've ever done. I did it because I didn't know what to do with my money. So on the daycare, got a couple dollars, and what I go do, I go buy a Mercedes. I don't even like Mercedes. Let's start with that. I mean, I've never been the girl that's like, oh, I gotta get it. That's never been like something that I set my eye on. But long story short, I went to go get a vehicle. They didn't have the vehicle that I wanted. I had to take a vehicle because I didn't have a vehicle, and I said I'm gonna get something. So what they had there that was reasonable and within my price range happened to be a used Mercedes. So I got it, and feeling myself a little bit. It was a cute little car. Feeling myself, I went and got boss lady tags or boss mama or something on the tag. And my mother was like, and now I look at it and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I was so pretentious. Like, who does that? I mean, it's bad enough it's this flashy little car, right? But then you go on ahead and put the license plate. Child, get up out of here. I'm so embarrassed. But but we all have our moments. That was one of my moments. That was one of my I guess I've made it moments. I ain't made nothing, child. But anyway, um yeah, I don't atone to that. I say all that to say I don't atone to that. I've matured in that I don't want to be a boss. I want to be a leader. My aunt used to always say, well, y'all, all these girls talking about they bosses, especially during the pandemic when the PPPs was flying. Everybody was a boss of one. You got you a suite, you got your little little side business. You got your little LLC for your $125, and now you're a boss. Okay, how's that working out for you? Because again, if you weren't in there cultivating that thing and making it systematic, right, and coming up with approaches and things of that nature, then it isolates with you. And so therefore when it dies with you. Okay, all right, I said it. So it's trauma behind the title. Let me read this. It says, let's talk real for a second. Sometimes being the boss is our trauma showing up dressed like ambition. It says we take control because we grew up around chaos. Okay, so it's a way to protect yourself, right? We micromanage because we've been let down before. That's one that I used to do. Like, I asked you to do it, you don't want to do it, so or you're gonna do it wrong. My grandmother was good for that. Like, she never let anyone do anything, to the point where my mother and them, they never really cooked because my grandmother just says, "Oh, I'll do it myself." Or you're cleaning, she don't like the way you clean. Now, unfortunately, but fortunately, when it got to me, she had kind of, which is typical of grandparents, right? You do one thing with your kids, you get to your grandkids and do it totally different. Grandma got to me and began to teach me things. I remember her teaching me to clean the bathroom, and I was pissed. But I appreciated the time she took to teach me. And so now when I do clean the bathroom, I'm very thorough because there were certain things she taught me. She was a leader, she wasn't bossy to me. Even with cooking, I cooked. My mom learned to cook. I was cooking at 12 because from me working at Maddie's and to me working with my, looking at watching my grandmother, she actually let me in the kitchen. She wouldn't let my mother and my aunts in the kitchen because they didn't do it right. Get out of here. I'll do it myself. She was bossy. She was bossy to her children. She was a leader to me. I love my grandma. She loved me. But she was bossy to her own children. And so I seen the difference just in that alone. Like, she would let me help her do things where she wouldn't let my mom and them do that. So that wasn't really a good thing. And it could be traumatizing, right? And it could have come from her trauma, just making sure that she protects everything and it doesn't get ruined because she had to do things just right. And that in and of itself is a trauma, right? We overwork because we're told rest is weakness. Remember, I told y'all, I come from that school of thought, and we are killing that hustle culture. We talked about it in my last podcast. Nothing comes to a sleeper but a dream. That was my moniker. Thought it was the dopest line ever written, and I tried to live by it. Foolishness. It says here, but family, that's not leadership. None of those things, right? Is leadership. That's a trauma response. And that's something that me and my friend Santos was talking about yesterday. He said, I'm so tired of hearing that word trauma. And here's what I explained to him. And this is what I wholeheartedly agree. I'm not a therapist. I'm just telling you my thoughts. It's my show. I could do that. Trauma is just unresolved stuff, right? Like, it's that ball that's sitting in your stomach that turns into a rock. Like, don't let it turn into a rock. Get it while it's still fluid. Deal with that thing, and then it won't turn into trauma. But I digress, because if it's there, it's already there. So at that point, it's probably too late. But the point is, it's not too late to mitigate or offset that trauma, right? First things first, you got to recognize that it's there. And that's where that introspection comes in. Really looking at yourself, really praying to God and hearing him when he tell you, nah, sis, you ain't right on that one. Because we swear we always right? No, that's not. Let me check you. Why you so busy trying to check everybody else? God will say that to you. If you really got a relationship, let me check you while you're checking everyone else. Because maybe it's you. I love saying it's a you problem. Sometimes it's a you problem, a me problem. All right. So again, that's not leadership. That's trauma. Let's go in and try to readjust, realign, reevaluate so that we don't keep that trauma and the residue of it and then ruin or dismantle a business that we are trying to levitate, right? All right. You can't build trust. Here's another tea bag. You can't build trust with your team if you don't heal your trust wounds. Guess what? They may not do it like you've done it. That's the reality. They may not. But if it gets done, and then you can find little things to kind of coach and lead them in and say, hey, that was a great job. Moving forward, perhaps, or don't forget, X, Y, and Z still has to be done. I really appreciate this job. Like, it's all about how the delivery is. And I'm learning that. This is the space that I'm still learning. Like, you know, not saying anything is probably the worst thing. You have to say things because that's where good coaching comes in. You don't see a basketball coach just let their team just go out there and just start dribbling. And even if he coached them, he still has to say something at some point while they're on the court, right? Good coaches, yeah, they will let you go ball out, but they still have to say something at some point. So you want to be in the same light, right? So you see them doing something, that's not to say that they're doing it wrong, but here's what was missed, here's what's left out, moving forward. It's just about knowing your staff, how they receive things, and then speaking to them in that light. Okay. And I'm not saying sitting here coddling and babying people. I'm saying having real adult conversations that are thorough and clearly communicated. My Zoe is teaching me that I have to say things and not walk away. I have to not just get frustrated and start doing it myself, because otherwise I'll be stuck alone. Okay. So again, I'm learning this stuff too. All right. We're rounding it off. Building while becoming. I'm currently building teams out of all my businesses. I kind of said this before. Kingdom Kids, I'm trusting that the right teachers will carry this mission. And they have to be the right. I know that, I don't believe children are bad. This is something my grandmother taught me from a kid. Like, you say, oh, you bad. My grandmother said, there ain't no kids. There's such a thing as bad kids. Just like there's no such a thing as nasty food, right? I don't believe in that. I believe that there are experiences that children have seen or come through that has caused the behavior, and our question is to ask why. It's not easy. It can be frustrating because we have to give grace because they are children. And so now, don't get me wrong, there's probably half of every, out of every 10 kids, half of one is probably a bad seed. I mean, but it's rare that we'll come across that point 0.5 child, right? And so, with that being said, finding the right team member who believes in that vision wholeheartedly and wants to come on board and make sacrifices, because you are going to experience some things through those children, right? Because even if they come from the best household, there's something that has effect. Think about yourself. You could have come from what you think is the best household, but it was that one thing that still sticks on you, that, here we go with the word, may have created some trauma. Or if not even trauma, if it's not that deep, it kind of every now and again pops his head like, why did that person do that? Right? Like, there's that somewhere. And so, our job as educators at Kingdom Kids is to make sure that we're circumventing that. Well, not even circumventing, that we're dissecting that, getting that up out of there so that those children know that whatever that thing is doesn't define them, and that we will move forward. That's huge. Get that thing out of there. I don't even let my staff I don't let the children say, I'm sorry. Absolutely not. People like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. To me, it is, because you're not sorry, especially my boys. I'm sorry. You are not a sorry young man. And that's what I say. Then they say, I'm sorry. I apologize. Absolutely. My aunt taught me that years ago, and I used to be like, it's not that deep. I get it. Everything we say to these children has to be intentional. Everything we do with these children has to be intentional. And if it's not, step back and pray. I do it all the time. To do it today. My point is, to find the right teachers, the right educators, not teachers, who will understand and still get with these kids, get right with them, because at the end of the day, they still need discipline, right? But they need it with love. At ICBS, I'm empowering therapists and educators to take ownership. Again, I'm not going to be in that impact school, in that classroom that's in our building. I'm empowering my educators. Now, that's not to say I'm off. Like, yep, you got them. No, that's to say that this is what you guys have. It is new. I want you to build the scope because you have the expertise. I've built the framework, but you have the expertise. Here's the framework. Let's read it thoroughly. Let's make it applicable. If it's something that needs to be changed, let's go back and do that. Make it make sense, right? But you have to be empowered and entrepreneurial minded to go in there and make this thing hop off this paper and be cyclical in this classroom. Soul Stables, I'm surrendering control to skill hands because I don't know what I'm doing. No, I'm just joking. I know what's needed. And because I'm a risk taker, ultimate entrepreneur, I will go out there and take the risk for someone else. I'm going to run so someone else can walk, or in this case, ride. Hey. But in this case, it's not about me, right? It's about the healing. And so, again, just like Kingdom Kids came from me having a daycare and then seeing that, okay, once these kids leave, there's no place for them. And then my daughters, in and of itself, like there's no social emotional learning that's really ingrained in the DNA. There's really no whole child development. It's really not for us by us. And then from that, getting a kid who had autism and realizing, man, he's doing good here, but what if he did better, right? Like, what if there was a space that enabled him to do better? And that's where impact came from. And then having impact and saying, dang, like, what kind of recreation can they do? Like, what's really, really dope that, and then, oh, there's a need, there's a demand, people want it, but the waiting list is long, say less. I ain't creating nothing else. God, you hear me? Please let me live. Let me just get some chickens and live the rest of my life. But what I said, I'm still learning how to lead. I'm still letting go. But guess what? That's leadership too. Learning how to say, "Woo, child, you got it." When I had to leave the first time, not last week, but a couple weeks before that, I said, I'm leaving early. I just said to my team, I'm leaving early. I'm tired. I'm leaving at 3:00. Baby, I stepped back about 3 times. Y'all got it. More so because I just didn't want my team to feel like I was dropping the ball. But you know what they said, y'all? We got it. Go. That's when that's when I knew that I was a good leader. At least in that sense, right? I'm not perfect, but I'm a good leader because they were like, get out of here. And I was like, and then I didn't have to even ask. They texted me and was like, everything's good. Place is locked up. When I got there, all classrooms were clean. It was neat. Chairs were stacked. All the things. I was like, oh, it really felt great. It really felt great because this school year, I'm going to have to do a lot of that. I'm leaving at 3:30, 4:00 at the earliest. I'm not staying till 5, 6:00 this school year. Not every day. And if I do, I'll be in my office doing the necessary paperwork. But, this is critical. This is critical. This is when you got to let go. You got to take the kid off the titty. All right, let's go on to this next segment. The Real Leader Checklist. This is real quick. I'm going to go through it quick. Here's a quick checklist for you if you're ready to stop bossing and start breaking free. Remember, you don't want to be a boss. You'll be a boss of yourself, okay? Are you building a team or clinging to a title? Can your business breathe without you? I tested the water. Are you micromanaging or mentoring? I try not to micromanage, try to be, have explanations and things of that nature. Are you operating from trust or trauma? I'm working on that. I think I'm doing a decent job at that. Learning how to say, Nene, you did not come up with the idea. And even if you did, you're not about to execute. Let me tell you a quick story. I was in an office with a couple leaders the other day who's going to help me level up impact from the business side. And so they told me about a code that I wasn't doing. They said, you need to do this code and add it as a program offering to impact. It's not going to take much. Actually, it's 2 codes you need to add to, and let's blow this thing up. So I was like, oh yeah. So I was like, so all I have to do is such and such. And then I said, oh, I could do that. I could be the one to go into the school. When I say that lady looked at me like, she was so mad at me in a nice sisterly way, right? Like she was like, you ain't doing nothing. Sit your butt down. And I was like, yeah, you right. Because no, you can't do everything. You are the visionary. Set it up, hire the right people, and run it. Do your check-ins. Have your meetings. Make sure people are accountable, know what to do, and let them get it done. Let them fail forward as long as no one's going to get hurt. And the shop is not going to burn down. You got to do it. I'm learning it. All right, final tea bag. Growth starts where control ends. All right, y'all. That is it. Are you a boss or are you a leader? I am somewhere in the middle. I guess I'm a beater. I'm a boss leader. No, I think I am leaning more to the leader side of things, but trust and believe me, it is not easy. But in order to have three thriving entities, and I say thriving because Kingdom Kids is on its third year and it is about to actually take off and be self sufficient. I ran the numbers today. To God be the glory. We have 10, maybe 11 children who have applied with the Opportunity Scholarship and went in and selected our school. Once they do that, they're yours, right? I mean, they have time to change over, but and I think I have two more like on the hook right now, and then several private pay parents. Like, you got to understand the significance behind this. Here's what I'm up against: public school, which is free, charter school, which is free, other private schools, which have documentation to show they've done the work, right? I'm not free. I'm not free. And I don't have all the documentation thus far because we're still building out our systems. But we need more children to be effective, to be able to show this is what we do. Yeah, we have results, but we want that concrete data, right? And so parents are entrusting us with their children to teach them, mold them, cultivate them, love them, discipline them, although we call it restorative justice, but do the things, right? Other parents are sacrificing and paying us, the ones who don't receive the scholarship, paying us and entrusting us with their child. This is, I mean, I could cry, honestly speaking, on the strength that that's a big deal, right? And so I do not take this lightly at all. I know I've been running a race. I know I've been running a race, and the race is not over. But I'm shaking my leg right now because I'm trying to keep my composure, because at the end of the day, it's huge. I know impact is going to blow up. Like, I'm not even worried about that because, one, the risk is a little less. Yes, your child is autistic and you want all the things, but because the parents, one, don't have to put up their own money, they're using their health insurance, it's a little easier for them to, and then they see that they trust me. So it's like, we do trust her, but I think it'll just be easier to scale impact, again, because we're using health insurance dollars. But to have parents to say, I can take this Opportunity Scholarship and go to any private school and use this as a golden ticket to get in, but we choose you, that's a really big deal to me, and I do not take it lightly. Soul Stables, I don't anticipate to do anything crazy with that. Like, I'm very, very discreet with that. I know we get into things to make money still. At the end of the day, I am a businesswoman, but my goal is not to be rich off of that. It is really to offer a service. And so, and my children get the benefit off of being just, not a city kid, but being able to actually say, I got my real cowboy boots. I mean, I got girls that's really gonna be able to wear cowboy boots and say that they ride horses. That's amazing to me, especially being a girl from up north. So it has more intrinsic value than extrinsic value, meaning it has an internal pull for me. And so Soul Stables is really that. It is a soul type of work. All of this is, but I just love to look at it like a triangle. We have Kingdom Kids up here, which birthed out of Impact, which funneled down to Soul Stable, which will eventually go into my home to where I can open up my gates and I have my farm. So, it just goes literally like this when I see it in my head. And that's why I know that I'm in the space, I'm in the vein. So, but none of this will work if I continue or if I act as a boss and I do not lead her up. I ain't gonna say boss up if I don't lead her up and make sure that I'm properly delegating, I'm effectively communicating, that I am present, right? And that I am making sure that I'm mentoring my team so that they know my heart, they know my head, but most importantly, they know my expectation. And so when you're clear on that, um, it really should leave little room and little margin for error. But when you're a boss, remember we talked about it, there's a lot of traumas that keep you closed in, not as communicative, dry, micromanaging, trauma induced, talking at, not talking to, not actively listening. I didn't talk about that, but always having something to say without listening. And here's a big one, not being introspective, meaning not self checking yourself, letting God check you. Those things have to happen so you can make an effective shift. A lot of us want to be a boss because it's glitzy and it's glamorous. But when I hear that word now, I kind of, or I do the Southern thing, bless your heart. Because effective, essentially what that means is you don't know what you're doing. It also means that how long will you be around? And I get it. People do jobs and you see them in the office, but you saw Amazon started in the garage. He was one person, but we all know that that is not the case now. And if you really want to level up, right? If you think keeping it all to yourself um, is leveling up, you're insane, right? Even leadership looks like, and I'll say this really quickly and end it, leadership even looks like partnering, knowing when to partner, knowing when to say, I'd rather have 50% of some millions than 100% of a couple hundred. Foolishness. Wrong idea. Leadership looks like that. So, y'all, check it out. Next week, I'll be back at y'all. Last week, I had a migraine. I had to take some time for myself, but I'm up out of here. Leadership, boss, which one are you? Break free with T. Marie. Holla at y'all.
The Connected Radio.